Hey! Surprise! The good news is I haven't been erased from existence. The bad news is my eyesight disappeared. But someone anonymous gave me a new pair of eyes. Now I don't need glasses anymore. Though I think they're a bit faulty because sometimes I feel like when I'm making eye contact with people, it doesn't feel like it. It feels like it's not proper. Hey, Nerdwalker, how about you wrap up your pansy ass bling so you could get around to talk about how crazy pants awesome my sequel is? Oh, sorry, Deadpool. Bottom line, the show must go on. But first, I gotta get cleaned up first. Deadpool, will you do the honors? Who, me? Oh, absolutely. After I get this frog out of my throat.
Okay, hit it.
The Merc with a Mouth returns in his long-awaited follow-up, Deadpool 2. As some of you may know, I loved the first Deadpool movie. I thought it was one of a kind with its violence and meta-humor. And the idea of a sequel just about excites me and everybody else. Even with the news of director Tim Miller not returning for the sequel, I still remain optimistic. And the trailers didn't disappoint, with Deadpool making fun of Bob Ross and using toy versions of himself in Cable. For his next ride, Deadpool tries to protect a young mutant named Russell who is targeted by Cable, a mutant from the future. When Cable proves to be a challenge for him, Deadpool forms a new team of supers called the X-Force. The members of this new team include Domino and Peter. Man, that Peter steals the show. We also get our favorite old characters back, like Weasel, Dopinder, Colossus, Negasonic Teenage Warhead, complete with a wicked new hairstyle, and Blind Owl. After being emotionally crushed by Avengers Infinity War, I hoped with Deadpool 2 I could get something lighter, as well as an all-around enjoyable laugh-out-loud film. But for the sequel, it proved to have a whole new approach in terms of tone. Oh, it's very funny, don't get me wrong, but the way it starts was a little staggering for me. Even the film was aware of it, not surprisingly. But there were a few good payoffs later on, but more on that later. Once again, Ryan Reynolds does a great job as Deadpool. I swear, every time I hear him speak, I immediately think of that insane anti-hero. It's like whenever I hear Ben Whishaw speak, I'm just gonna think of Paddington. In the sequel, Wade gets more humanized as he learns to seize responsibility to protect Russell. In one scene, the two are taken to a mutant prison where they get these collars around their necks which takes away their powers. It puts Wade in a more vulnerable position, which makes the film more intriguing. Josh Brolin plays a good foil to Deadpool, the dead serious gun-wielding Cable. And while I thought Thanos was more fleshed out, I thought Brolin's portrayal of Cable was pretty well played. You get to know him and his motive through visual storytelling, and the direction his character takes later on, you could kind of see it coming, but I think it's done pretty well. Then there's the X-Force team. I could go on about Peter, but I think he speaks for himself, so I'll move on to Domino, who has the ability to be lucky in almost any situation, which makes Deadpool very skeptical. A lot of people were against Zazie Beetz being cast in the role. In the comics, Domino is supposed to have an albino face with a black mark, but in the movie, it's completely reversed. However, being the open-minded person I was, I decided to give her a chance, and man was she cool. Her look, swagger, and abilities were enough to win my favor. And for those of you who still feel that comic book characters need to be portrayed accurately in film, I think you'll be more than pleased with this one certain character who appears later on. You would think with the first movie being a huge success, they would get a bigger budget for bigger action scenes, and they don't disappoint, thanks to director David Leitch's experience with action and stunts. Even though the smaller action set pieces in the first film were pretty unique and very memorable, but these action scenes in the sequel proved to be crazy balls to the wall fun. The main issue I had with the movie was that I thought the emotional drama didn't quite mesh well with the raunchy, humorous tone that Deadpool is known for. There was one scene that was going for an emotional response, but it was also shooting some jokes, and honestly, it was starting to get tedious as it went along. It's like how people say that Marvel can't deliver a sincere moment without dulling it down with a lot of jokes. But as I said before, I thought it paid off, so I can't fault it that much. Speaking of which, this movie has what many people are calling the best post-credits scene ever. And honestly, they aren't wrong. It is nothing short of amazing. Deadpool 2 gave me the same things I loved from the first movie, but also some cool new elements and characters. It has some things that surprised me in a good and bad way, but I grew to accept some of these changes after a second viewing. Personally, I preferred the first movie, but I can see myself revisiting the follow-up many times in the future. Cable for sure would agree with me there. So Deadpool 2 gets my strong approval. Okay, I am about to go into spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie, then turn off the video if you don't want to know the big surprises that occurred. The first thing I like to talk about is how Vanessa just dies in like the first 10 minutes, and that really shocked me, to be honest. But before that, she and Wade were celebrating their first anniversary, and she shows Wade her little birth control device, which is another way of saying she wants to have a child with him, and Wade is honestly very excited. But she gets killed by this gangster who Deadpool escapes from, and as I said, the movie was self-aware of it. It had a opening credit sequence that almost feels like a James Bond movie, and it has those little credits that are, you know, they reflect on what just happened. Like a film by what the F did I just saw? From a production of Did They Just Kill Her? Starring someone who obviously hates sharing the spotlight. So it was pretty funny, but that really threw me off, to be honest. It's the trope of the girl in the fridge, I think it's called, of how a love interest gets killed, which is used as an incident to move the hero forward. You know, with Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy, and you know, with Rachel in The Dark Knight. I'm not a big fan of that trope, to be honest, unless it's done well. So, Wade feels like he has nothing left. Wade feels like he has nothing to live for, so he tries to kill himself. But being Deadpool, he just can't do it. And Colossus tries to help him out. We also see Negasonic Teenage Warhead again with a wicked new hairstyle, and she has a girlfriend, which I think is so adorable. Her girlfriend is Yukio, who I didn't know was a character from the Wolverine, but she is quite different in this movie. She is very cheery and a more accurate portrayal. It's so cute the way she says "hi" or "bye," and Deadpool loves her too. Bye, Yukio. Hi, Yukio. And what's also cool is that there are a bunch of cameos in the movie. Like Wade goes on about how he only sees Colossus and Negasonic in his movies, and then he doesn't know that right beside him is Professor X, Beast, and Quicksilver and Cyclops. They are in another room, and Beast just closed the doors. It's like they're hiding from Deadpool, which I thought was very funny. It's so cool that they get to do new things with the sequel. But anyway, Deadpool hears the news of a rogue mutant causing a scene, and it's Russell, who calls himself Fire Fist. And this is, I think his name is Julian Dennison. He is most well known for the movie Hunt for the Wilder People, which I gotta see because I heard some people said it was a really good heartfelt comedy. It is directed by Taika Waititi, who also directed Thor Ragnarok and also voiced Korg, but he also starred alongside Ryan Reynolds in the Green Lantern movie. Man, how I love the connections. So Deadpool tries to talk down to Russell, trying to go easy on him, but when it's not working, he decides to go dirty by shooting some people. He's part of an orphanage that hates mutants, and that pretty much gets him and Russell arrested. And they find themselves in a mutant prison, and they get these collars that take away their abilities. So Wade's cancer resurfaces. And I thought it was an interesting choice to make him a little more vulnerable. But anyway, Cable makes his arrival. As I said, he's from the future, and his mission in the movie is to avenge his wife and daughter who get killed by Russell in the future. So he plans on killing Russell to prevent it. He is also capable of time travel. He has a device that only gives him 2 charges. The more he uses it, the less he can control it. He only has like 1 charge to get him to the past and 1 charge to get him home. And as Wade said, well, that's just lazy writing. And he also runs into 2 Regnants, and it's actually Matt Damon in another cameo, and the other is Alan Tudyk. I didn't recognize it was Matt Damon, much like how I didn't recognize him at first in Thor Ragnarok. I was just like looking at his face like, who is that? I just can't put my finger on it. I looked it up. Oh, Matt Damon. So anyway, Cable invades the prison to try to find and kill Russell, but Wade tries to stop him, and he even gets the collar knocked off his neck so his powers came back. I even like how he's trying to fight Cable, and Cable's like, "Who are you?" And Wade says, "I'm Batman." That got a big laugh out of me. And he also says that line, "You're so dark. You sure you're not from the DC universe?" So that convinces Wade to form a group to save Russell from Cable. Well, first of all, when Wade is trying to kill himself, he is so close to the light, but there's a barrier that separates him and Vanessa, and she tries to tell him some messages that he honestly doesn't understand, like follow your heart, and he feels that Russell is the source of, finding his heart. So he starts looking for recruits, and they include Bedlam, who can create electrical surges. There's also Shatterstar, who is from a planet of some known. Zygas, as I think is his name, who's played by Bill Skarsgård, who can spit acid. And there's the Vanisher, and they play the joke of whether or not he's actually there. And there's Domino, and they have a back and forth, she and Deadpool, about her abilities and whether or not it is possible to be lucky. And of course there's Peter, who just, saw the ad And Deadpool's like, "You're in." And that really pisses off Dopinder because he really wants to do more heroic stuff with Deadpool, but Deadpool's like, I don't know, Dopinder. And he even works for Weasel, as a janitor. Anyway, they make their way on a plane, and I love how Deadpool is like yelling at Peter, but he whispers to him, "I'm not really angry at you. I'm just yelling at you to impress the others. I won't let anything happen to you, Sugar Bear." I love he calls him Sugar Bear. Anyway, they make the jump, but in a twist, a lot of the team members get killed, and that was another surprise. Like, unlike Vanessa's death, that was so hilarious the way they get killed. Like, Shatterstar gets himself in a helicopter propeller, and just there's green slime everywhere. And Zygas gets himself in a wood chipper. It's so bloody. And Peter accidentally gets Zygas's vomit acid on him, which puts away his arm. It's so gross and funny. And so a lot of those team members just get axed off. But I didn't mind it. I thought it was hilarious. So Domino is the one survivor along with Wade. Because, lucky. Anyway, there's a cool chase. He's with the two, trying to protect Russell. Save him from Cable. And Russell has made an ally with this other prison mate in the mutant prison, who is supposed to be, very tough, like the biggest, baddest prison inmate. And that prison inmate, he was quite tough, uses fizz, and he smashes on the truck that's transporting himself, Russell, and their prison mates, and it breaks down. And Deadpool's like, holy! But anyway, after the truck collapses, Russell and his buddy emerge, and it's Juggernaut. And it is not that version in X-Men The Last Stand where he's like, I'm the Juggernaut, bitch. No, this is a more accurate depiction of Juggernaut. Anyway, Deadpool is just awestruck when he sees it's Juggernaut. He's like, I thought that was you. I should have worn my white pants. And when Domino sees Juggernaut, she just and turns the other way. I was thinking maybe she had a history with Juggernaut, like she offended him, but I guess that's just her instinct, to turn the other way because it is not worth it to face him. But Deadpool goes on about how he's a huge fan of Juggernaut, and he says, "It's always been a dream of mine to see my face reflected in your helmet as you charge at me with murderous intent. I don't mean right now." And Juggernaut grabs him and he goes, "I'm gonna rip you in half now." That is such a Juggernaut thing to say. And he does. It's bloody and so funny. Devil's like, oh god, I can't feel my legs. Oh no, they're right here. Another cool thing is that Juggernaut is actually portrayed by Ryan Reynolds. They modified his voice to sound much deeper, and he also did the motion capture for that character. That was incredible how Juggernaut was entirely CGI. But anyway, Deadpool Wade relaxes in Blind Al's apartment waiting for his legs to grow, and it is another hilarious image, him with these tiny little legs and feet. He even does a basic instinct move, on crossing his legs, and you see a little peeper. Anyway, Cable approaches Wade to make him a proposition telling him of his mission to stop Russell from killing his family. And he allows Wade to try to reform Russell in about 30 seconds to prevent it. And it's another funny scene in how he wobbles over to Cable with his tiny legs and shake his hand to make a deal. And Deadpool also recruits Colossus to help out in a John Hughes style with a little boombox. And the climax is, I think, is even better than the last one, with more characters fighting. We get this Colossus and Juggernaut fight, and Deadpool's like, a big CGI fight coming up. And, they do their own thing, and Russell tries to get vengeance against the orphaned headmaster who tormented him. And, Domino tries to save the other orphans there. I even like how Colossus and Negasonic and even Yukio defeat Juggernaut by releasing a flap in his prison suit that exposes his butt, and they put an electrical wire in his butt and throw him in a pool, which shocks him. Anyway, Deadpool decides to make the ultimate sacrifice when Cable pulls out his gun and shoots at Russell. He puts the collar around himself and runs up and lets himself get hit with the bullet. And it is done in slow-mo, and the song from Andy called Tomorrow is playing. And then I also should mention they have a choir singing "Holy shit balls, holy shit balls," which was again funny. Another funny little detail. After Deadpool gets shot, this was the part where he says, "Tell me they got that in slow motion." And while I said that I am not a big fan of the emotional elements in the movie, this scene was starting to get a bit drawn out for me, as it seems like Wade is dead, but nope, he's still alive, and he's making some requests. He gives Domino his adventure time He gives Domino his adventure time watch, and he asks a small favor of Colossus. He asks him to say "fuck," and Colossus does, and he's like, "Whoa, enjoy hell, smug mouth." Anyway, and again, I thought the scene was getting a bit tedious as it went on and on, with the fake outs. I think I'm seeing the light. Oh no, wait, that's the sun. Don't stare in it. But I thought it was a little better than that, scene in Shrek the Third when, Fiona's father, the King Frog, is dying. It seems like he's dead, but no, it's a fake out. And I thought it was handled a little bit well. But anyway, Wade is dead, and he finally makes his way to Vanessa in the afterlife. He even gets through the barrier, and he's back to his normal self. That made me go, oh. And that scene is actually done pretty well. And they have that unplugged version of the song Take On Me, which I thought was a good touch. So I thought that was one of the better emotional scenes. It was totally worth it. But Vanessa tells him it's not his time. And Cable decides to use his final charge to go back a few minutes later. And he puts a little thing in Deadpool's suit. It's actually the token that was from their first day together at that little arcade. It's a little reminder of their love. He even takes it from Wade, but he decides to plant it in his suit, so when he shoots him, it would stop the bullet from going into him. So I think it's cool to see that Cable has a change of heart and decides, since his family is safe, he decides to stay in this timeline to help out, change the future so it wouldn't be as shitty as it was when he lived in it. So anyway, that's the end of the movie, and let's get to the big post-credit scene. Deadpool asks Negasonic and Yukio to fix Cable's time-traveling device so he can make some changes of his own. I also love how Deadpool calls her 11 because of the shaved head thing. And I was thinking that, wait, Cable has the ability to travel back in time. Would Deadpool use it too? And you pretty much know he uses the device to go back to when Vanessa got killed and saves her. And that was very satisfying. Even though it may undo the events, I don't really care. Would you do the same if you had the ability to travel back in time to save your loved one? And I would think that, Deadpool will still put together the X-Force team after he learned so much from that experience. But he also goes back and he tells Peter to go home so he wouldn't get killed. But what's even better about the scene is that it cuts to that lame excuse of Deadpool from X-Men Origins Wolverine. And you see Wolverine like, Wade, is that you? I guess they finally found a way to shut you up. And Deadpool shoots him dead. And he's like saying to Wolverine, please, no scratching, just clean up the timelines. And he shoots that faux Deadpool multiple times. And honestly, I bet everybody was so happy to see that because they hate that version of Deadpool. That is not the Deadpool that we know and love. It's amazing how much Fox is letting Ryan Reynolds get away with. I guess because Deadpool, the first one, made more money than every X-Men movie. But what's even better is that it shows Ryan Reynolds looking at a script and he says to himself, welcome to the big leagues. And it's a script of Green Lantern and then brains get blown out. How cool is that for Ryan Reynolds to troll himself even more by shooting himself? And Deadpool says, you're welcome, Canada. So, yeah, that's all I got to say about Deadpool 2. I really enjoyed it. There were some things, some changes that threw me off a bit, as I said, killing off Vanessa and the emotional approach, but it was really fun. I enjoyed it. And I hope you enjoyed hearing me talk about it. So thank you all for watching, and y'all take care.